Thanks, Trevor. You're promoting me. I'm not the PhD yet, but I like the sound of it. Hello all, and I'd like to thank Mark and Trevor for inviting my colleague Porrick Lynch and I from the Department of Design and Creative Media at the Donegal campus of ATU to give you a quick overview. I'm a bit like Mark. I don't think I could possibly do justice I'm going to set a timer for 25 minutes because I do want to leave time for questions for people on design thinking. And what I'm going to look at is, as Mark mentioned there, where design thinking can be that sort of, it can be blockchain, it can be sustainability, it can be whatever, where the context that you find yourself. Design thinking is a really useful tool for bridging and for coming up with solutions or looking at problems in a different way. And Mark ended with quotes, so I'm going to start with a few. And the first one is, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And I can see great synergies between our two sessions. If we are just blinkered at looking at this is the way it is, this is the way it's always been, we fall into traps of thinking that there's no way to change that. And Edison famously, I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. And the word failure is something that is seen as scary and negative, but actually, if we're truly to be innovative, if we're truly to come up with new ideas, there's no path that's been trodden before. There isn't, if I do this, it will work. We have to be the brave people that boldly go and try something new. And that's scary. But design thinking, which is a process, is a really good way to give us nice parameters to safely experiment and to be authentic and reassured in the steps that we're taking. So David Kelly and Tim Brown are people that are often associated with design thinking. IDEO is this fantastic, really innovative organization that apply design thinking to sticky problems, to really interesting and challenging situations. And they say in its simplest form, design thinking is a process. That's a big thing. If you go away with nothing else, I appreciate that design thinking is a term that maybe some people are jaded of, others maybe are uncertain of. But the big thing to know about design thinking is it's not this, sitting around and thinking. It's a process. It's applicable to all walks of life, and it's a process for creating new and innovative ideas and solving problems. It's not limited to a specific industry or area of expertise. It can be as effective in technology or education as it may be in services or manufacturing. But I appreciate also that that's often, it's the applying of what is this process. So Cleese says this, what is this operating system? How does it apply to me? I can see for product development, I can see in the traditional design how it can be applied, but how would that work for me? And one of the questions are, why do we need design thinking? Because the wicked problems, the big thing that's playing on your mind can seem overwhelming. But with design thinking, it's breaking that down into bite-sized pieces. It's giving you stages to walk through. And you might know where you're going, but if you trust the process, you'll get there in the end. And I think part of the reason why people are uncertain about design thinking is because there seems to be so many models out there. And even our department has contributed to more models to that. But what I really want, again, today to be about is I'm going to show you different models, but I'm going to show you what the crux of all of them are. And the reason that Porrick has come up with a model and my colleague, Dr. Tina Patton, and I have come up with a model is that when we used others, the language didn't resonate with our students. Or with clients in the case of Porrick, and we just wanted to create one that felt right for us. So no one's reinventing the wheel here, but I'm going to go through, show you different languages that different models use, and you do your pick and mix. There's still a process, there's still stages that you go through, but the language is generally what changes. And you might have a eureka moment for one of these as I go through. So Design for America, they very clearly delineate between understanding and then making and creating. And that's a really foundational element of design thinking. It's the word thinking is in there, but it's a very much action focused. So you'll see that in lots of these, you know, the D School, Kelly that I mentioned previously, this is the Stanford's D School. This is the one that really launched design thinking. And you know, this is one we used for many years, but the word empathize didn't really resonate with our students. But of course, it's about, you know, who are you doing this for, and what are they, what are their needs, and then you're working through that in the various stages. Oops, sorry. Oh, there we go. I have to plug our Tina and I's the unique process. So we were looking at the others, as I say, thinking about you know, what words might resonate better. I will admit that we're like, oh, we're getting your unique here. How can we really make unique work with this? But actually it did. And the reason I put this in as well is a lot of these look like the stages are very linear, but actually you move forward and back all the time in design thinking. So you might come to an idea and go, actually, if there's something there, but I'm not quite sure about this. I need to do more research on that. So you're going back into the understanding phases. You might do a quick prototype and go, very important for the session that we're at today. Okay, I'd really like to make this this service, this product, whatever it is that you're doing. But actually, I really want to make sure that this is sustainable. So I need to go back and start researching materials, processes. So you're forward and back, but it's again, just that step by step, breaking it down, making it simple for you to work through your problem and look at it from a fresh perspective. Another idea. So I don't feel so bad when our department has two, when IDEO and Google Sprint have two in theirs as well. So, you know, you iterate and you find your process in reflecting on these ones. So discovery to evolution, you know, that idea of starting out and then evolving that idea. One that's coming up here and that we use as well, you know, that end bit of validate and evaluate. You know, it's no good just going through this without purposely reflecting on what you've done. This is the deep design thinking. So it's quite nice, but that idea of going around, you know, once you discover something, you have to see, does this relate to my user? And as I say, design thinking is all about putting your end user at the center of your decision making. The second Google Sprint example here, the Austin Center for Design. So you'll see, you know, Parix lift off, you know, looking at the opportunity, going all the way through to testing and pitching your final idea. And a lot of them are, this is the double diamond by the Design Council, but we see here that idea of you starting off with your challenge, casting the net wide, thinking about what all that could be, to then focus down on, okay, this is defined, this is what I'm actually challenging myself to do. What all could be the solution of that, then to come down to your final outcome. And regardless of whether a model says that, they all kind of, the process mirrors this. And you'll see that here with the IDEO's human-centered model. And we can see, you know, they haven't done the diamond, but there is that divergent, convergent, divergent, convergent process happening. So I've given you all of these models and we get all of these words. So we're at stage one, unique is understand, others it's discover, identity, empathize, the opportunity. So these are all words for this first stage. And what does that mean? It's an inspiration, sorry. So you understand what needs to be done. You understand who you're doing it for. You look at who are the stakeholders that are feeding into this sticky problem or wicked problem or minor thing, whatever it is that you're doing. What is the context? All of these will be unique to what you're looking at. And because they're unique, you'll have to do the research. So you may do primary research, interviewing the people that this is affecting. You do secondary research into, is there exemplars out there? What can science tell me? What can industry tell me what can, you're really that divergent, you're casting the net. Who can feed into this? Where can I learn about this? How can I be as confident moving forward that I have considered the aspects of this and that I really understand who I'm doing this for, and identify as, in Park's term, that opportunity. And so that's great. You've got all this information. You might do that through observation, not in a creepy way, but seeing how people work currently, where are the pinch points, where are the moments of joy. You might interview people to get information from them, and then good old-fashioned internet searches, library searches. You're gathering all the information at this stage. And then stage 2, what needs to be done? You're immersing yourself. You've got this information, but there's no point having information without thinking, what am I going to do with this? So you're empathizing again. It comes in different stages for different models. You're reframing. And I think this is reframing, define, interpretation. This is really critical at this point. And that is where, as I say, you've got all this information, but what does it tell you? What can you really garner from this information? One of the tools that you might use is, develop a persona. You've got information from all these different people. Creating somebody that represents that is really helpful. What is their experience currently in the current context and situation? So you're starting to visualize the problem. You can create persona based on your research, and you're thinking about the problem from a different perspective. And you're really trying to get to the kernel of what it is that you're trying to do here, what it is that's really important, and you're defining this. And you might think, oh, well, that's surely what a brief is, or that's surely what's brought me to applying design thinking to whatever challenge it is. But we're so often, we think we need one thing, and actually when we pause and explore it more, we realize it might be something else. And I'm nervous showing this because I realize I think we've got engineers in the session here. But if somebody comes to you and says, build a bridge, well, okay, that's my brief. Somebody's asked me to build a bridge. Now I'll think, okay, it could be a cantilever bridge or suspension bridge, and that's fine. And I could start building that. But actually, at this stage, of this second stage, you have got the brief and you've done research into it, and you've spoken to your client or your colleagues or whatever, as I say, the context that you're working in. And the big thing that you have to do here is ask why. You could make this beautiful bridge, as I say, but the why. So, okay, I need the bridge because I need to cross this body of water. Okay, so yeah, a bridge will certainly cross a body of water, but maybe a boat would also, or maybe a submarine, or so like immediately you're starting to think, okay, not just this thing. Okay, you need to cross water, and then the why is, okay, well, actually it's not just across water. I have to get a message across the water, and so that then changes it completely, because it could be a carrier pigeon. It could be just a really great internet service. It could be, it pushes you from, I need to build a bridge, to it could be something much simpler. And also this brings in what Mark is talking about. When you think about, okay, well, what other lens do I want to put in on this? Sustainability is really important to me. Am I utilizing blockchain? All of these, this is where you're sort of twisting the focus of your problem to really define what it is. And the 5 whys, as usual, you push to get to the kernel. And this usually gives you great insights into what it is that you're truly wanting to do. And I've done the cardinal sin of one time writing great notes about something on design thinking and not being able to acknowledge who I found this from. But I think it was actually a documentary on design thinking, but they said that it's best to think of needs as verbs rather than nouns. And I'm talking about this sort of moment where you think, oh, yes. So like if we look at that previous example, rather than saying noun bridge, think verb communicate. It really opens up what it is that you're truly needing to do. So that's a really nice way to start. It's all about I love the Galileo example of Marx. What assumptions are we taking, and actually what's the really much more insightful thing to view this problem as. And so, as I say, you're bringing down all the information, you're prioritizing, pulling out, you're trying to find those insights that give you a fresh perspective, and really the emotive or the truly important aspect of this, what is it that you truly need to solve? And you can, you build your persona from the information that you're creating, and the persona is such a useful tool because it seems innocuous, but if you start thinking, I really understand this person, and it helps you with so many decision making, because you'll be like, oh no, Trevor wouldn't, he wouldn't want that, or that wouldn't be something that would appeal to him, or you're starting to work through these things. And then this was a workshop I gave with Mark's group previously. We were looking at my commute, and the different, if you think about the context and looking at where are the pinch points, because often the pinch points are where you can really come up with the best solutions, or where are the moments of joy. And when you see that, you're starting to really understand the person that this is being created for, and you can make decisions accordingly. So third stage, ideas. And actually, this is where many of the models converge and have the same sort of words here. So ideas, ideate, was many of them use the word ideate. Excuse me. Diverge, casting the net, as I say. Decide, experiment. This is often seen as the fun part, certainly for Tina and I students. This is where you come up with ideas, and that seems a lofty challenge, but you're really not. You're throwing everything down. You're sketching. This design thinking, the word design and the word thinking throw off people, because really it's about the fun that Mark talked about as well. It's about, putting everything down, not filtering yourself. You see in all of these studios, the Post-its, but Post-its are great because Post-its are moments. They're not precious, and putting one next to another might trigger another idea that you hadn't thought about. And we do all sorts of things in the ideas section. We write limericks, we do storytelling, we look at all sorts of activities. We wordplay. The thesaurus is your friend when you're in ideas. You're pushing away from the obvious, and you're not filtering yourself. It's so important in this stage. You might be putting things down and not understanding why you put it down, and that's perfectly fine, because it is a moment of, like, we flip the challenge, and we actually purposely take two words that you wouldn't associate with each other and try and come up with ideas from that. It's really trying to get past the obvious in this section. And you're moving past just thinking in terms of visuals. So you're thinking of all the senses. So we're so quick to write down, but actually how something feels, what does that evoke, how something smells. Music and smell are fantastic devices in getting us to both in for our own way of coming up with new ideas, but also for thinking about our end user. You hear a song on the radio and immediately you're brought back to a particular time. A smell, you can resonates with something or makes you think about a person. We get so blinkered in thinking in the visual, that we don't explore the full possibilities and the full realms of our senses. And again, in ideas, as I say, when you're thinking, what's sustainability? Think about inclusivity. That's another, universal design is something that we, bring through with our students all the time. Don't think of the one, there's not, yes, we're looking at personas, but you have to think about the society as a whole. There's a great presentation. Actually, I'll put a few links on, not looking at averages. You're looking at the whole spectrum of society that you're creating for the solution that you're trying to find. Stage 4 then is quick prototype, and I did mention that we were trying to shoehorn unique slightly, but quick prototype is a really important one. A prototype is one that's used in a lot of the models, but the quick actually is really important, because this is not about 3D printing and using high spec. This is about creating a model in some way. Now, a model could be a drawing, it could actually be a maquette, it could be a storyboard for how this will play out, how your solution will play out. So you've converged and you've had 100 ideas and you've settled on one, having thought about sustainability, about inclusivity, and you're converging again here. Then you're building something, you're producing something that will give enough of an indication of your idea that a person will be able to use it and give you feedback on it. So I've put here, depending on your age group, channel your inner Blue Peter, Making with Mary, Art Attack. It's lollipop sticks, it's cardboard, it's reusing the cornflakes box, it's whatever you have to hand. Tinfoil is it can be manipulated in great ways. And you're making a dummy. You're making a rough draft of what your idea is. And I thought I think I do have time just to show you. Yeah, I do. This one, actually, no, I won't. Yes, I will. Sorry. The making process is really important because you're learning from it. And rather than call you stupid, I'm saying keep it simple, sweetie. As you're making, you'll go, oh, I don't need this, or how are they going to open this? Or if it's a service, well, how are they going to find out about this? And in the making is such a useful tool. And so rather than listening to me talk all the time, I'm going to show you this short video about a prototyping process. Oh, can you not hear me? Are you able to hear that? I'm just...
No, they can't hear. They're coming, but okay. The subtitles are coming up, so it's
okay, cool. Well, I'll just show you that, this is a person with... I'll put the link in the chat that you can watch it at your own time, but this is a person with cerebral palsy, and the challenge was to create... the initial challenge was a spoon with a lid, because when they would go to eat, things would spill, and or they would need some aid in eating. And the breaking point was that the gentleman here, his mother had to go and answer the phone, and just when she was feeding him breakfast, and he didn't like soggy cornflakes. I think there's two schools of camp. Some people love when the milk makes their cornflakes wet. He did not. And so it was a simple problem of, well, how can we create some implement that will allow independence in eating. And they looked at all sorts. They made very complicated devices. They made the lids, they prototyped with whatever was to hand, and then they realized that the simplest form, just the shape, was really what was important. And the prototyping was that they one Christmas so they had a break over Christmas, and they tried out the different quick prototypes they'd made, and they knew that they're on to a winner there, because it was the first Christmas that they were able to feed themselves soup without spilling a drop. So it's a lovely example, and a very, the big thing that they say is sometimes the best solution is the simplest. So and then you've gone through this, and when you have used it, this is the final stage, or second to last stage. Some say that some have this the final stage, so that you test, you pitch it, you use it. You obviously, as I say, if somebody uses it, you know, and that you find problems with it, then you go back and you evolve the idea. The use is really important, because sometimes we get really caught up in, but it's my precious idea. I don't want anyone to say anything negative about it. As I say, design thinking is about pushing you through a process, moving you out of your comfort zone. And so, because if you don't do that, you know, you get far too focused on your precious, and you can't see all that it can be. So when you have your prototype, go out, get people to use it, ideally get your target audience to use it, your user group to use it. Oh, okay, that's my, thankfully, I think we've only 2 more minutes to go here. And get that feedback. So it might be that you give a model, you know, the obvious, you know, if you're coming up with a new blend of coffee, you get people to taste it and give you feedback. If you're coming up with a website, you just do a really draft, say, you know, this is what the homepage would be like. You know, does it make sense? What information do you want next? All of these different ways of getting feedback. And then for only a few, but we certainly advocate that you evaluate. So you evaluate the prototype and the feedback, but you also evaluate the whole process. Did you spend too much time somewhere? Did you not get to prototyping quick enough? Did you not really push the ideas as much as they could be? Yeah, so you're reflecting on all of these things. Yeah, so I had a few examples again, as I'll put this in on the chat for you. I had done a design thinking process of this session, but you know, big thing to leave you with is process-driven methodology, places the end user at the center of what you're doing. You're focusing on need finding, understanding, empathizing, creating, thinking, and doing. These are, you know, this is really pushing you past, and really about going out there and trying it, and not thinking you're waiting for this perfect thing. Just give it a go, and you'll learn so much in the process. And so, yeah, unique process goes through Tina and I's model. But as I say, there's many out there, and it's just about finding the language that works for you. I'm very happy to field any questions anyone might have. Apologies, I'm Connolly in the chat here, but it's O'Donoghue at work. So Cróna.O'Donoghue@atu.ie. So I think I've got 3 minutes for questions rather than the 5 I had wanted. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.